slow play drumbeat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the show. Plenty to cover with you here on the program. We'll get into the very latest in the hot stove in Major League Baseball. Actually have some activity to talk about. Also the latest in the National Basketball Association as we approach the All-Star break. And, of course, the very latest in sports betting legislation and information. Got a big story to tell you about here at the top of the show as well. But let's begin with the hot stove really heating up. It looks like the major free agents are virtually all off the board because a couple of chips did drop yesterday. The first one, the biggest one, Alex Bregman, now formerly of the Houston Astros, has agreed to a 3-year deal, $120 million with the Boston Red Sox, searching for a 6-year deal. Certainly did not get it, but he does have an opt-out after the first year of the contract. So, hypothetically speaking, a big year for Bregman in Boston could potentially lead him to free agency once again. Now, as of right now, it would appear there's a possibility Bregman could open up the season at second base for the Red Sox as well. He was a Gold Glove third baseman with Houston and has a good track record at Fenway, hitting .375 with 7 home runs and 15 runs batted in. We'll get to some more free agency here coming up in just a minute. Big story out of the state of Mississippi. The Senate has become the first U.S. legislative chamber to approve a ban on all sweepstakes casinos, a version of a senator's SB 2510, which would prohibit online sweepstakes and increase punishments for offshore online casinos, passed by a 44-1 vote on the Senate floor on Tuesday. Mississippi is the first state to do this. Remember, they do have legalized sports betting there, but only at retail shops and obviously all in person. Meanwhile, former NFL wide receiver Kadarius Toney arrested last week in Georgia on 2 counts, according to online records. He was booked in Douglas County on counts of aggravated assault, strangulation, and obstructing, harassing 911 calls. Toney, a very checkered on-the-field experience with both Kansas City and the New York Giants. Have to wonder where his career could end up after this. The Dallas Mavericks playing some really good basketball last night, even without Anthony Davis. Kyrie Irving has been an absolute star this season for them. He put up 42 last night, as Dallas beat the Warriors by a final of 111 to 107. Jimmy Butler called for a charge with 10 seconds left, down 2 and a chance to tie. But Kyrie Irving, the star, will head to the All-Star break, now wondering just how good his team is.
I mean, anytime you're in a game like tonight and you're looking for that energy, you could look into the crowd, to our fans, and you could drive yourself off that or, get amplified, electrified off of that energy that's in the crowd. And it makes a big difference for us. In our home, our home stadium, we got to protect it. Our arena, we got to protect it. And I feel like our fans know that. We're obviously dealing with something unique, but at the same time, we have to put our best foot forward. So I'm grateful that we all get to, make the big picture, as they say. Just keep the main thing, and just enjoy the fruits of our labor, preparing, going out there and trying to put up a good product for our fans and win games. That's what it's about. But we obviously feel for the fans too. They give us a lot of energy. So just a delicate balancing act.
Fans in Houston happy with their first half of the season. Amen Thompson had a triple-double. The Rockets beat the Suns last night, 119 to 111. Kevin Durant had 37 points in the loss. Meanwhile, one of the highest-scoring games in the NBA this season, no question, the Knicks over the Hawks in overtime. How about this final? 149 to 148. Karl Anthony Towns, another 40-point performance. He had 44 last night. Jalen Brunson made the go-ahead jumper with 11 seconds left in overtime. 40 points in consecutive games for Cat. Brunson and Cat talking after the game about the huge overtime win.
It's great to go into break on the win, no matter how we got it or what happened. I'm just happy we fought through, regardless of what we did, positive or negative. We came in with a win, and yeah.
I'm getting more used to it. Just and also my teammates got me in great positions, and it was just one of those nights where the ball felt good, and I was getting the races pretty well, and just taking my shot and being aggressive.
But what did you see, I guess, either in the way they were guarding you or whatever it is that you were able to do?
I think they guarded well. I think it's just starting hitting threes. I was shooting from real far. Yeah. I got to look back at the tape, but I know a lot of them weren't close to the three-point line. So, I just want to be aggressive in my shot selection, and happy that one, I can make them, but two, that shout out to my teammates trusting me with the ball in those positions.
The East was led from start to finish by the Cleveland Cavaliers. They head to the break, beating the Raptors 131 to 108. They've won 8 out of their last 9 games. Red hot all season long. Speaking of red hot, yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder did it again. This time they were down 21, came all the way back to win against the Miami Heat. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP favorite, 32 points, 115 to 101 the final. SGA also had 14 points in the fourth quarter, and he talked about the comeback win after the game.
Just keep stacking possessions, keep getting stops, most importantly. That's what allows you to win, but when you're playing like from behind, you need stops or else the game's over. So that was like my focal point, and we did a really good job of stringing together stops just to start the fourth, and that's what gave us a chance to come back and win.
We only had 8 points in the paint in the second half. It just either tactically or an execution thing. What was it that prevented them from getting anything down low?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, but Coach came in at halftime and said they were like maybe 19 for 23 at the rim in the first half, and no matter who you play, giving up points at the rim to the most efficient shots in the game is never the recipe. We know that, and we wanted to change that in the second half and just control the things that we can control, and we did enough of it to get a W.
Speaking of big point totals last night, how about a career high for Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets? He had 55 points as Denver beat Portland 132 to 121. Also, Jason Tatum with a big game last night had 32 points to help the Celtics beat Wemby and the Spurs 116 to 103. Tatum after the game said it was all about the performance on offense that led to the win.
The last game before All-Star break is always mentally, I think, one of the toughest games of the year. Just it's a long season, been traveling a lot. Guys got plans for vacation with their families and things like that. So, in recent years, we've dropped this game a few times. So I thought it was really important the way that we started and made sure that we were just locked in throughout the game. For one, because it was before All-Star break, and then, a because it was at home, and we need to do a better job of protecting home court.
All right, now let's get to the very latest in Major League Baseball. By the way, one other final last night. We'll talk about it more coming up. Lakers fell to the Jazz last night. Lauri Markkanen had 32 points. All right, in baseball, not only did Alex Bregman sign a long-term deal, also Nick Pivetta did. The Padres have agreed with the right-handed pitcher on a 4-year, $55 million contract pitched with the Boston Red Sox. Also, Tigers pitcher Alex Cobb has a hip injury, likely out for opening day, signed a 1-year deal with the Tigers. Meanwhile, Anthony Rendon, that long-term contract over $250 million with the Angels, doesn't look like he's going to be playing for them anytime soon. He's going to have hip surgery. It's been a tough run for him with the Angels. All right, in college basketball last night, our director Luke not all that happy with the performance from St. John's. Close game, but they do fall finally to Villanova, 73-71. Their win streak is over. And St. John's has had a really nice season, but this is going to hurt them in terms of their seeding ranking, perhaps in the NCAA tournament. Of course, Villanova unranked going into this game. Cooper Flagg had 27 points. Duke beats California. Final score in this one, 78-57. Also, number 12, Texas Tech scores the most points in a Big 12 game, beating Arizona State. Final score, 111-106. All right, we got it all in. Coming up next, we dive into the very latest in the National Football League. An announcement by the owner of the New York Jets making Aaron Rodgers' fate official. We'll hit on that as we continue next. Don't go away.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We were going to start off talking a little football, little Saints with Vinnie Iyer before, by the way, Vinnie checks out on us for a while here with the NFL season coming to an end. Next month, we'll dive back into the NFL draft, but certainly Vinnie is with us today. And final time, Vinnie, you and I will talk for a bit, and then, of course, we'll fire it back up for the draft. But, hey, the Jets made some news for us today, but I thought we already knew this news. I guess they made it officially official that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back. The owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, saying that they're going to be going in another direction. I guess this is not a surprise, but a good talking point, I suppose, for people like you and I.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to speculate where he might be going to continue his career next. He said, kind of hinted that he's not going to retire, so The teams that come to mind right away are the ones that have openings here. The Las Vegas Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers. They need to figure out something with those teams at quarterback. You got Steelers basically with no signed veteran quarterbacks. The Raiders are blowing everything up with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. So that would be interesting if he ends up in Las Vegas. But those would be two of the front-running teams, as well as the Giants. You consider their situation without Daniel Jones. So now the speculation begins on where he will land among those teams, and I think it could be anywhere. But again, I would have high expectations based on this disaster with the Jets, what you're going to get from Aaron Rodgers. It just has to be the perfect situation for him to continue to win, and I don't know if that's going to happen after 2 years of losing so badly with the Jets. They were actually worse with him than without him the year before, so that's not a good sign.
All right, now, I think that Kellen Moore is going to make the Saints better, Vinny, but, they have so many cap issues and talent issues. I just wonder from this perspective, was this like a situation, Vinny, where Kellen Moore looked at it like, hey, there's only a certain amount of these jobs and I got to take one, because they were the last team to get an NFL coach. I mean, look, I'm not going to speculate beyond what I think, but I can tell you what I think, Vinny. I think the Saints probably had another coach in mind before they hired Kellen Moore. What do you think about this move?
Yeah, I mean, they waited for the best candidate that was still available in the playoffs. I mean, Kellen Moore's ready at this point. He's 36. I mean, in previous cycles, he's been rumored to take a head coaching job, but he was just too young. Here, I think this was his kind of breakthrough year in terms of being a key guy on a winning team that won the Super Bowl and Saquon Barkley and all that success. So they had to jump on at least, he's a bright mind that's going to keep things going schematically well for the Saints. Now, unfortunately, economically is where the Saints struggle. Their salary cap situation is absolute hell. They've got to figure out what they're going to do with all their veterans: Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Cameron Jordan, DeMario Davis. I mean, this team has become long in the tooth. They've kind of been overdue addressing some of these contracts and older players. So it's a tough situation. I don't think the Saints have a quick path to playing well anytime soon. So they're going to have to be patient in New Orleans with him, and Moore's got to be patient with Mickey Loomis and the rest of that front office to kind of clean house there and get the players that he needs to be successful and win.
Yeah, I think so. And you look at it, I mean, his offenses have been very good. I mean, you look at the amount of points that teams have scored with him leading the way: 27 in 2019, 24 in 20. 30, 27, 20. I mean, that 1 year with Dallas, I guess that's what got him the axe there. But I mean, beyond that, I mean, they've always been pretty good. Meanwhile, Vinny, the hiring cycle comes to completion. Who was your favorite hiring of all of these? Was it Ben Johnson with the Bears, Shoddy with the Cowboys, Liam Cohen and Duval with the Jaguars, Aaron Glenn, Vrabel, Raiders get Pete Carroll? That was a strange one. And now Kellen Moore taps them all off.
Yeah, I think just going for the young offensive coordinator, we've seen that throughout these teams that have had successful runs, whether they're the head coach or they're calling the plays, right? So you start with Ben Johnson. I like that move. You got to fix your quarterback. You have a number 1 overall pick. You got a guy that's going to also come in and fix the offensive line, make it more of a balanced and explosive offense. So that's great for Caleb Williams. And then I think underrated is Liam Cohen coming in for Trevor Lawrence. Again, another number 1 overall pick that we forget about that hasn't quite lived up to expectations in Jacksonville. So now you get a guy that just did tremendous things with Baker Mayfield, a 40-touchdown pass season. So again, anyone kind of attached with Sean McVay or what the Lions were doing, I think you're excited about having those type of hires versus going the Pete Carroll route or someone older, Mike Vrabel, bringing him back. So I think those are very exciting hires for those teams if you want those quarterbacks to hit their higher ceiling.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, meanwhile, the personnel in New Orleans looks like this. I mean, Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill. I mean, I don't know, like Carr on the back 9, Kamara on the back 9, Olave. I mean, has he reached the expectations that we thought? Taysom Hill, I mean, he's in his 30s, man. Like, I don't know. Like, it feels to me like they're asking this coach to come in and fix something that's not fixable, Vinny. Like, I mean, you hate to say the Saints need to rebuild, but I mean, isn't this only going to get them? If they bring all these players back and make some little additions here and there, I mean, it feels like they're a 7-win team or an 8-win team again.
Yeah, I think these changes are long overdue, and I think they kind of fell into a trap that looked at the Buccaneers and what was going on with Tom Brady post Buck State there, but they've still been the best team in the division, and you haven't taken advantage of a down division to go after it. And they thought, okay, we have some stable veteran players, we can go after this title here, and they started out well, right? They scored a ton of points to start the season, but then things really derailed with injuries. Their defense fell apart for Dennis Allen. Just again, too many older guys there, not enough impact younger players. They had to move on from Marshawn Lattimore. So when you're looking at this team, yeah, they got a little bit too long with just starting the rebuilding and rejuvenation, and it's going to cost them a little bit. And the irony is now they have a young coach here that maybe their best form of their youth movement. Now they have to get the other players and personnel up to speed.
Yep, agreed. Now, Vinny, as far as your coverage over at Sporting News, what can we expect over the next month? I mean, I know free agency opens up and there's franchise tagging and things of that nature, but when people log in and check out the football coverage, what is on deck?
Well, there'll be plenty of mock drafts. There'll be plenty of big board updates there to check out as we look at the top prospects. So check those out, free agency. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers rumors, they're going to dominate us once again, Craig. So get ready for that. 2 years later, it's happening again.
Yeah, here we go. Another free agency for a former future Hall of Famer from the Green Bay Packers, from Favre to Rodgers on down. All right, Vinny, great to talk to you again. We'll catch up again before the draft. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, Craig.
Sound off next.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We had a big upset last night in the NBA. Our Kevin Walsh is going to give us a preview of that. Also, one head coach in college basketball not happy about the ref's decision to throw technicals at his team because of the assistant coaches. And also, the live golf situation seems to be headed downward. Those topics and a whole lot more. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Game 1 for Luka and the Lakers went well. What happened last night? In the rematch against the Utah Jazz, Utah comes out on top as a big dog against Luka and company? Let's hear from Kevin Walsh on the situation that happened last night in Hollywood.
Checking in on the Luka Lakers, and it's a 1-1 start heading into the All-Star break. Game number 1, amazing. Game number 2, not so much. Both games against the Utah Jazz. Sometimes that's how the quick turnaround home road kind of splits go when you play the same team twice. For the Lakers, there has to be some disappointment as they had the chance to enter into the All-Star break 2-0 with Luka, big winning streak, that does get snapped. It's not a panic or anything like that. I think the most interesting thing for bettors is so far, Luka unders are bang, bang, bang. He's not playing a ton of these games yet. Some minutes restriction, some blowouts. He hasn't played a fourth quarter minute yet. How do books adjust these Luka props? Points, rebounds, assists, and threes all have gone under in each of the first 2 games. What does that look like post-All-Star break? Is something for us to follow. It's back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Kevin. Appreciate it. Meanwhile, a big issue last night between Providence and Xavier. Head coach Kim English assessed 2 technical fouls and described the reasons why as it pertained to his assistant coaches standing up. Have a listen.
What happened on that second tech?
Well, the first tech, at the 15-11 mark, Brent Hampton stopped the game. He made a 3, he stopped the game, and he told me to tell my assistant coaches to sit down. One was standing up. And I said to him, they have 2 assistant coaches standing up. In that exact tone. He said, okay, that's how you're going to do it? That's how you're going to do it? I said, they have 2 assistant coaches standing up. I got to tell you. At the 18:54 mark, they had a player travel on a spin move. And Pat Driscoll, great referee, was about to call the travel. Brent Hampton comes in out of nowhere while Justin Fernandez has his hand on the basketball, and he calls a foul. They bang the 3. I got to work on our bumping on the back of our zone to take away the 3. That's what we can control. And as they come down court, I say, missed travel, made 3. Missed travel, made 3. It was at 18:40, and I got my second technical foul and ejected. It's my first and second technical foul of the year for saying they had 2 assistant coaches standing up and for saying a missed travel led to a made 3.
Interesting notes from the head coach there. Maybe a fine could be in line there too. Although, he's just calling it how he saw it last night. Got to call it how we see it. Live Golf has not had the trajectory of success that we expected. But will they ever merge with the PGA Tour? What does the future hold, by the way, for Live Golf? Here's Keith Stewart with Carver discussing what could potentially happen with the very unique golf tournament.
Rory talked today, and he had a lot to say because it sounds like this PGA, PIF, Live stuff has been accelerated a little bit now that they've got the president of the United States involved.
Well, it was interesting. We covered a number of subjects with him, and Rory's always great with the media. He spent, 20, 30 minutes with us answering a ton of different questions. And there's this concept coming out, and you're going to hear this word a lot, and it's reunification. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about that because they were never really unified to begin with. I think it's more like unification, but it sounds like between the president's involvement and what the players want and the tour listening to the fans is that Yasser and Jay are getting together with some of the players, Adam Scott, and they're trying to work all of this out. One of the really interesting things about the press conference with Rory was that he mentioned that he played golf with Donald Trump back in January before he was inaugurated. And Trump made mention of a bunch of things, was that he's a fan of the PGA Tour. He's on the PGA Tour side. He doesn't really care for the live format, and something needs to be done about it. Well, he's not been in office very long, and he's already meeting with the commissioner of the PGA Tour and the commissioner of the PIF. Those are positive signs for all of us.
Yeah, I think right now there's going to be some serious discussion what the future could potentially hold. And by the way, could be in the best interest of Live at this point just to bite the bullet together with the PGA Tour. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back, Danny Burke's going to join us to break down some of the final games before the All-Star break.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Danny Burke from Stochastic on the show. We're going to go over all of the games tonight in the NBA. Danny, I mean, how do you fill the time the next few days here? I mean, the NBA decided a few years ago to take a week off from the games. I know you're not going to be betting on maybe you are going to be betting on the All-Star game or whatever experience they have going on this week. But downtime coming here. I guess it's over to college hoops.
It's ridiculous if you look at the scope of the NBA, right? You just had the NFL season wrap up, and there's already been all this mayhem about the lack of, entertainment or resources that is being directed toward the NBA fandom, whatever you want to call it. And then they go, we'll put our All-Star break the week after we have the Super Bowl. So it just doesn't make any sense how the NBA does their scheduling. So yeah, we're going to have to fill the time with either some wagers throughout the All-Star weekend festivities, but realistically, more so, as you alluded to, some college basketball action. Obviously, we got a little PGA. I know you're just talking about the links in the last segment, but got to get some other stuff to hold us over after tonight.
Yeah, I think so. And, that's where I start to pay attention to pitchers and catchers reporting for spring training. Okay, so, the Dallas Mavericks, you got to give them credit for the win that they had last night. I mean, Kyrie Irving has really put together one of the best seasons of his career. They're playing without Anthony Davis. Kyrie with some interesting post-game notes saying it sort of is what it is at this point. They're going to play tonight against the Miami Heat. So this is a back-to-back. I don't know how you usually handle teams on back-to-back, but naturally Miami is probably – I don't know what their situation is, but I know Tyler Hero has been out. They've had some stomach bug issues, I know, going on there. But Dallas obviously going to be up against it until they get AD back.
Yeah, last night's performance, just to begin there, was incredible from Dallas. And it's kind of ridiculous because we see this occur all the time in the NBA, to where you have a team that just seems like their backs are against the ropes. They're missing a bunch of people. Obviously, Anthony Davis was out. Powell's been out for a while. Lively's been out. Gafford was out. PJ Washington, was even out, who's kind of a pseudo big man for this Mavericks team. Yet somehow they still found a way. Kyrie Irving dropping 40-plus points. Klay Thompson contributing from deep. And that was the difference, is who was able to hit their shots from three-point land, and certainly that advantage resided with the home team in Dallas, taking the spot over Golden State, what seemed like a really easy path for them. But again, every time everybody wants to jump in against a team that's missing a bunch of people, they kind of rise up, come up to the occasion, and not only cover, but they got the outright win. So that was pretty remarkable what Dallas was able to do. Tough turnaround, though, here, coming back-to-back nights, especially if you're going to be missing
all of those guys once again, which we know that PJ Washington at least is going to be out through the All-Star break, and then obviously Gafford and Davis as well. So Miami, though, as you alluded to, is kind of up in the air with injuries themselves. I mean, is Tyler Hero going to be available? He played yesterday, but he didn't really have that big of an impact battling that illness, but still was able to play, but again, didn't really have that significant impact that he usually does. So that's going to be the big question mark here. And if you can get a little bit of that conviction that Miami is going to be relatively healthy, it does seem like this would be the better spot for them, because even though the Mavericks rallied together last night, this would be the spot naturally that you would think they would falter afterwards. But the angle that I like, if anything, in this game tonight would more so be the under. You have Dallas, who's about middle of the pack in pace of play. Factor that in with missing a bunch of pieces, and then coinciding with Miami, who's about 28th in pace of play and more so of a defensive-oriented team in general, also a little bit banged up throughout all their areas where it's going to contribute into scoring. I think the under is a good look in this spot, and you can still get it in a relatively higher spot in those 220s. I know it's come down a little bit, but I think the under would be the best bet for me in this matchup tonight.
Yeah, especially, Danny, if those guys don't play for Miami, and you're already missing Dallas, too. So that's a good call there by you. Golden State's probably a little seething after last night's game. But, hey, look, anytime you play against the Rockets, you are in for a battle. That's been one of the big surprise teams, at least for me, in the West this season. Clearly, the coaching has improved. They're 6.5-point favorites tonight, total 216.5 in this game. So, I mean, I look at it, Danny, and, not knowing as much as you about this, the spread feels high to me. I kind of wonder why 6.5-point favorites is the line. So generally speaking, I look toward the dog here, but if both teams are playing back-to-back, what gives in this one?
Yeah, so this line shot up in favor of Houston overnight, and a large reason to that is because Steve Kerr alluded to him maybe resting some of his veteran players, so this is going to give a huge advantage toward Houston. Now, at the same time, the Rockets are potentially missing some of their guys too. Steven Adams, Eason, they could be absent in this game, but even without those guys, if Golden State is potentially going to be resting their veterans, which is really the main focal point of their team, on the other side, you have a young, just vibrant Houston team that really takes a lot of pride on their defensive prowess, and they have these young bodies in the depth that are able to replace those players for at least one game, whereas Golden State, you really don't have that, and you're putting all your chips into the basket relying on the Steph Currys, now Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, etc., with those veteran pieces to help you out. So if, in fact, Golden State does sit out some of those guys, that's why you see this line going to where it is and may even go higher if that does come to fruition. So it does make sense on paper. I don't really see value one way or the other based on that spread because you don't really want to chase it now if it is an overreaction. And look, Houston, because they're still missing pieces, it's not really that tempting to lay a bigger number with them. I do think they get the job done in this spot, but yeah, this is probably a game where you're looking for more player props depending on who's in and who isn't. If Jimmy Butler does play, look, his usage rate has gone up in insane amounts since joining Golden State, especially in the rebounding department. So we'll see if he belongs in that category of the veteran players who sit out or not, but that's the main reason why. And I think the numbers are set accordingly right now. So it's kind of a stay away for the most part for me.
Yeah, that seems fair. And I think when you look at the Warriors, I mean, it is a little surprising to me that they're still plus 102, even with adding Jimmy Butler here. I wonder if you feel, Danny, that there's any, I mean, I don't want to use the word value on plus 102 because, again, what's the difference between plus 102 and 105? I mean, there's nothing really there. It seems like what they're telling you is there's less than a 50-50 shot that the Warriors make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's perplexing here because, right, you got to factor in the play-in game scenario and you got to get past that point. So it's a little bit deeper than that, and obviously check, the stipulations at each book with these bets because the play-in game brings a unique factor into it. But as good as Jimmy Butler has been and can be, it's just worrisome with this Golden State team how their defense has regressed over the years. That was kind of the side of the ball that helped aid them when their veteran players maybe regressed offensively and Steph wasn't able to do everything. And you lost KD back in the day. Klay Thompson was regressing. They had that defensive identity, but this season they're below average in a lot of categories. Points per 100 possessions allowed, defensive effective field goal percentage, just not the same dominance on that side of the ball. So even though you do get Butler into the mix, again, it doesn't really make it attractive at that price, especially when you have a lot of hurdles to overcome in the playing game and you have the Phoenix Suns breathing right down your neck. So I get, because it's the Warriors and we're used to them being amazing, that plus 102 looks appealing, but it's really not worth having your money held up for something that isn't really that juicy of a price for a team that's not in the best situation right now.
So before we end, I know we have a choice here, and I know Frank set me up with a lot of other things to talk about, Danny, but I do want your opinion here. Slam dunk contest, I mean, all of these extra contests they're doing and changing the All-Star game. What is it that we should be looking forward to, do you think, this weekend as NBA fans?
Well, realistically, probably not much, just because it is kind of been a disaster for the NBA in its entirety, but especially because All-Star Weekend has been less and less entertaining as it's gone on. From a personal perspective, I'm a Bulls fan. That's not bragging. I mean, the Bulls are even more of a disaster. But Buzelis, our young rookie, kind of a sensation right now, is in the dunk contest. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's probably the most to look forward to in general, just because you're kind of getting some of these newer guys are venturing out to not get the more star-studded players, but guys who can be creative and also want to be in this competition as opposed to being forced to be in it. So I think we could see a bit of uniqueness here, more creativity, which is really hard to do with the dunk contest. So that will at least be at the top of my list for this All-Star Weekend festivities.
All right, fair enough. We will keep an eye on that, Danny, and keep us updated what you think after these go off this weekend. I know a lot of complaints going on about all these changes in the NBA, but needless to say, I guess I'll be looking forward to next weekend when things resume in the National Basketball Association. Thanks again, Danny.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, great stuff here. Danny Burke. All right, let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, the Genesis is underway. Brady Cannon's got a preview next.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Brady Kannon in the house talking some golf here as we bring Brady in, and reminder to take off my glasses as we start the segment. Okay, now they're off. Hey, Brady, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And, naturally we're going to, I want to get to the Genesis here a lot. So let's just do a quick recap of the Phoenix Open. Thomas Dietrich, big time long shot, ends up coming through. wins the tournament. Hopefully for him, it's the start of some good things this season. I know that you've liked him at different points last season, so I wonder maybe if this is a jumping point for him.
Yeah, he's been a guy that I've been high on here for about a year and a half or so, Craig, and good for him that he finally kicked the door down. This guy has been around for a long time, at least for a few years on the PGA Tour and long before that on the DP World Tour, and he had never had a win in his career. This is his first professional victory, and he'd come close a number of times. He's done well here at Torrey Pines. You know, he did well at the PGA Championship last year, and yeah, just my dumb luck, right? This is a very young season. What are we, 7 tournaments in or so far in 2025? I've bet on him twice already, but of course I wasn't on him last week. But good for Thomas Dietrich. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes. But good for him, and he blew the field away. So, I expect more things to come from this guy. He was a guy, again, that I was saying is going to win soon. Unfortunately, I just was not around for the week that he did.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember you mentioning him a ton last year. So there it is. He gets the win. So this week we're at the Genesis Open. It's a huge tournament, big money at stake. And no surprise that Scottie Scheffler is the favorite, but maybe the bigger surprise is the way that Rory McIlroy has been playing has put him in the 2 spot in terms of the odds over on FanDuel. He's plus 650 now. I know that you've been on Morikawa. He is 16-1. Justin Thomas, 18-1. Oberg, another name I remember from last season too, at 22-1, and Hideki Matsuyama is 22-1. I know that a lot of the discussion, of course, because it is still Tiger Woods, mentioned that Tiger Woods not playing in this tournament, still not mentally ready to go after the passing of his mother. So Scotty the favorite, Rory 6.5-1, and I feel like I don't know if Rory's going to win this thing, but I know how golf works a little bit, Brady, not as much as you, and I like to ride the hot hand, so I kind of feel like all bets are in play for Rory this week too.
I don't disagree with you. Everything should set up very well for him. And by the way, the weather's pretty nasty. I've spoken with a couple of friends of mine in the area. It's kind of a consistent drizzle right now. And because you're so close to the ocean, that will feel and accumulate even more so. I mean, it's possible that they could not even finish the round today if you get some collection of puddles and whatnot on the greens. But I think the overall story here is we're going to have some weather. It looks like it's going to clear up a little bit beginning tomorrow morning, and we might be in the clear, midday Friday through the weekend. So if we can get through today, I think we're going to be okay, but it's going to be a soft golf course. It's going to be chilly. There's going to be some wind. I think it's going to play extremely difficult. The rough has been grown out, since we were here just 3 weeks ago. Of course, they had to move this because of the fires in Pacific Palisades, where we normally play this tournament at Riviera Country Club. We're back at Torrey Pines. So the rough has been grown out since we were here a few weeks ago when Harris English won. This is going to play extremely difficult. Torrey Pines has held a couple of U.S. Opens before in 2021 and 2008, most recently 2021 when Jon Rahm won it. But the point is here, guys like Rory McIlroy, the best players in the world, they're all here. But the best of the best, I think, are going to have an advantage, and especially Rory because he hits it so far. This golf course is nearly 7,800 yards. It is an absolute mammoth of a golf course. And so you're going to have to hit it long, and you're going to have to hit it straight. You don't want to be a short hitter and find yourself in the rough all day long, or it is going to be a real slog. So, yeah, Rory makes a ton of sense here because of the game that he brings to the table, Craig. And I don't disagree with you riding the hot hand, but I also don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and say, oh my gosh, Rory's red hot. He's going to win here again this week. So I stayed off of him. My shortest shots were Morikawa, who's not the longest guy in the field, but he's deadly accurate. And then Ludwig Oberg, who you mentioned, I did grab him at 25-1. He is long and he is straight. He's done well here in the past. And I think he's healthy. You remember he got out to a great start here a few weeks ago, and then he caught the flu bug, had to withdraw from Pebble Beach. He's had about 10 days, a couple weeks to recover. So I think he's back 100% and ready to go.
All right, fair enough. Now we'll check out, of course, all of the players on the tour this week. Rory, 4 starts on the South Course has been fantastic, as we've talked about. So going through some of the potential names that you like to win the Open, I know that you've alluded to a few of them. I'm always into these long shots here. I know, another name too that kind of caught my eye here on your list, Brady, is Tommy Fleetwood, because I know that at different points last year he's come really close to winning some big events. Is this the week he does it?
I sure hope so. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's very entertaining. He is yet to win a tournament on the PGA Tour, believe it or not, and this is a top 15 player in the world. But I like him here, Craig, because he typically plays his best. His best major has been U.S. Opens. He's a very good player on difficult golf courses and the conditions. A guy from England, right? He ought to be used to the rain and the fog and the wind. And, he hits it very straight. Total driving was probably the statistic I leaned on most this week, hitting it long and straight. And Tommy Fleetwood is one of the best in the world at that. He's got a very good short game. His irons are spot on. He does everything very, very well. And we've seen his odds. There's a lot of people interested in Tommy Fleetwood this week for, I think, all the reasons above, that he plays difficult conditions and golf courses very, very well. So I think Fleetwood makes a lot of sense. I got him at 47-1. I've seen him as low as about 30-1. Rory, you talk about a European guy, Fleetwood. I also went with some California kids, Maverick McNeely, Akshay Bhatia, and Colin Morikawa. I think they're familiar with the Poana greens, putting surface, the conditions. So I think guys that are familiar with these elements are going to have an advantage this week.
All right. Well, Brady, good luck. We'll also read your column over at golf.com. Thanks again for coming on. Good luck with all the picks this week. I'll be watching for sure.
Let's hit another one at Torrey Pines, my friend.
Yeah, I would like it. All right. Brady Kannon here with us, pivoting over from football over to golf. All right. Coming up next, two former pitchers seem like they're going to duke it out in a couple of months. This is one of those I would not pay to see, but I'd be interested to the outcome in it. And also, if you play college football 25, got some good news for you over on EA Sports. We'll be right back. Time for some last licks when we return next on this Thursday edition of NewsWire. Don't go away.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. 2 former pitchers getting ready to duke it out. My goodness, they'll pay anybody to do these celebrity matches. Also, if you play The NCAA football game on Xbox, PlayStation, college football. I play it. I'm not very good at it. We got some good news, though, for there. Hey, how about Max Crosby weighing in on a potential new quarterback? Time now for some last licks. One of the sideshow events at the Super Bowl this past week was Patrick Mahomes Sr. This is Pat Mahomes, the former pitcher in Major League Baseball's had some, off the field issues to say the least. And John Rocker, former pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, John Rocker. So apparently these two, after the Super Bowl, were just walking down Bourbon Street or somewhere in New Orleans, not exactly sure what, and they almost got in a fight. How in the world did this even happen? It seemed like Rocker went after Mahomes. Maybe they didn't like each other during their playing career. I have no idea. I had never heard this story before, and I follow baseball. And Rocker, wanted to fight Mahomes. Mahomes Sr., keep in mind. So Barstool got involved in this naturally, and somehow, so quickly, by the way, this was announced yesterday. Think about this. Super Bowl was Sunday. This was announced yesterday. Rocker and Mahomes at an event called Rough and Rowdy are going to fight each other on April the 18th. I mean, you cannot make this kind of stuff up. By the way, April 18th, my birthday too. Happy birthday to me. So these two will fight. What they will get out of this has got to be some financial compensation, I hope. What will end up happening, I have no idea. But John Rocker is a very big gentleman. I don't know if you have seen him lately, but he looks pretty much how he did when he was a pitcher, maybe even a little bit bigger. So don't know how this is going to go. Not going to watch this either for me, but we'll be curious to see some clips on YouTube or whatever, and however it ends. All I can say is bad idea for either of these guys getting in the ring for a celebrity fight. Meanwhile, the NCAA makes an official announcement. More than 450 football players at 6 different schools have signed a group license deal for their use of NIL in video games, getting $1,500 each from a new company called Pathway. And Pathway is a group that's focused on providing above-cap NIL with a goal of signing 134 schools. So the question does remain, and is interesting, because we know that College Football 25 came back and does have the name and license for a lot of the players who are playing in this game. Is there a possibility there's going to be a new college football game that these players are signing on to that could rival College Football 25? It does appear that that's the reason why, and that is the case. So stay tuned, because no one has really challenged football by EA Sports with Madden, college football, etc. Maybe this is the first company to do so and succeed. Keep an eye on this company called Pathway. All right, we got the news earlier today. It was official. The owner of the New York Jets, never afraid to talk, right? In this case, the owner of the New York Jets, Woody Johnson, puts out a press release, in case you didn't watch the beginning of our show, saying that Aaron Rodgers will not be back with the Jets next season. Now, we knew this because it was reported on Super Bowl Sunday that he wasn't going to be back anyway, so much ado about nothing. But meanwhile, the rest of the NFL seems to be reacting to this. How about one of the best defensive players in the NFL? His name is Max Crosby. So Max Crosby goes on a podcast recently and is asked, hey, what would you think about Aaron Rodgers joining your team? And he said very little, except for this phrase: I wouldn't be mad. All right. So couple of things to unpack here. First of all, would Aaron Rodgers go to a situation in Las Vegas that appears to be in somewhat of a perpetual rebuild? I have no idea. Other question is, why did the Jets today feel the need to put out an official statement when the media basically leaked this less than a week ago? I got no idea as well. Needless to say, look out for Las Vegas, look out for Pittsburgh, and there's some rumors surrounding Pittsburgh too with Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Could that be a thing as well? Stay tuned. The NFL free agency period getting set to go off. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks again for watching, everybody. In addition, thanks to Danny Burke for coming on the program. Also, thanks to Vinnie Iyer of Sporting News. And also, thanks to all of you for watching the show today. We want to make sure that we remind you we're back here for another edition of NewsWire tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. We got our director, Luke, and our producer, Frank, all ready to go. And also coming up next, we got Smiley with the very latest on the Genesis Open, followed by Scott Farrell, coast to coast at 3 o'clock Eastern. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. That's our schedule right there, rest of the day. Screenshot it if you need it, if you're watching online, or take a picture. Gabe coming up tonight with the latest in that new hockey tournament. He seems to be very locked into that, by the way. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.